The Lara Croft collection arrives on the Switch, and Tomb Raider has been long overdue on the system, and sure, they may not be traditional entries for the series, but they are highly regarded, so let's take a look and see if these are going to be worth the cash on the system. My name's Alex, this is SwitchCorner, and if you do enjoy the video today, consider subscribing, it helps out the channel a huge amount. So this video then, it's going to be a little different because it's bundling together Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, and then the follow-up Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris. They can only be purchased currently as a bundle, but I'm going to be giving you a score for each at the end of the video. I'll be referring to both now throughout the video as either Guardian or Temple. In terms of the story, Guardian revolves around the fabled Mirror of Smoke, which sets off a series of events leading to the awakening of the Aztec god of lightning and death. Our mission is to thwart his plans and prevent him from casting the world into eternal darkness. On the other hand then, a Temple takes us on a very similar journey, but this time through an Egyptian landscape, as we strive to recover the Fragments of Osiris to halt Set, the god of evil, and his basic aim here is to enslave humanity. Now, while both games have what I'd consider relatively light narratives, I found Guardian to be overall just more engaging, with a story that feels like it's constantly evolving. In contrast, that follow-up Temple, it sometimes feels simply like a string of excuses designed solely to propel you forward to that next tomb. When it comes to gameplay then, both Guardian and Temple have departed from that typical third-person perspective, and they've opted here for an isometric viewpoint. They could both be best described as twin-stick shooters, complemented by a healthy dose of puzzles and platforming sequences. Surprisingly, this shift in perspective works well with the character and world, and the controls then are kept simple, ensuring it should be playable for all. Think movement that's handled with the left stick, aiming with the right stick, we can fire, we can leverage a grappling hook, and we can drop bombs that are detonated remotely with a tap of a button. Additionally then, we can jump and perform dodge rolls, and she will also naturally grab to ledges within her reach. We also get a special weapon exclusive to each game. These are a golden spear in Guardian, which doubles as a platform on walls, and in Temple it features a light spear that serves as a solution to various mirror-based puzzles. Temple also introduces several swimming-based sections, and these they feel like a natural extension of gameplay. Outside of that, much of the gameplay remains the same. Puzzles often leverage these special weapons. We will face a slew of deadly spikes and drops that are frustrating because they are one-hit kills. There are more than a few sections where we must push objects and match them up with their corresponding switches. There's also the occasional chase sequence where, let's say, there's a bridge collapsing or an all-out attack that we must escape swiftly, and in both games these moments, they are a little trial and error, but honestly, they are absolute highlights. They just feel fantastic. Enemies then can be lethal in this world as well, but weirdly, the first game Guardian features difficulty options, while a Temple or the follow-up actually lacks these, and that was missed during my playthrough, where it felt like the enemies were just a little too easy in comparison. When it does come to the enemies, however, the design here is to often throw an overwhelming number of them in your direction, and there's some fantastic designs in here, each with their own unique attack patterns, and they will demand something slightly different from you. An example here is some enemies that can actually resurrect themselves unless you detonate a bomb on them while they are down. Others may cast fire in your direction. These can be particularly troublesome. Bosses are also fantastic outside of the final boss of the first game, which feels a little cheap with some sequences that can lead to instant death, and a highlight has to be a beetle in the second game that has us constantly shifting our position for optimal strikes, and this boulder we are standing on, it is moving. Combat then is punctuated with some well-designed puzzles, though extremely simple, and there's also some platforming sequences that feel comfortable once you do get used to that new perspective. The other main difference in these entries then, it's going to be the level design. Guardian is very much a linear experience, pushing you from location to location, even if they do often feature branching pathways and choice in how you overcome the packed-in obstacles. The sequel, however, Temple, it opts for an open hub world that we can explore, and I think this kind of explains why the story doesn't quite work as well. It basically leads to sequences with very little sense of progression and constant backtracking as you return at the Fragments of Osiris. Weirdly, even with backtracking as well, it is by far the shorter game. I was wrapped with it in right around 3.5 hours, while a Temple took me a good 5.5 overall. Thankfully though, both games do pack features designed to make you return, and these are challenges such as kill enemies in a certain way, find X number of skulls within the world, beat the level within a certain time, and these are displayed following each tomb, giving you an opportunity to replay the level immediately. Now before we do get to the negatives then, I quickly want to talk inventory, and this is a feature I really do like. Each game gives you the opportunity to find collectibles for high score chasing, but also then different items to use. These come in the form of weapons as well as trinkets and rings that provide Lara with specific buffers such as quicker movement speed, but the trade-off there is going to be lower attack power. Additionally, we can level up our health meter and the attacks thanks to some collectibles in-game. We will also then unlock new costumes, and the first game even features some DLC missions. So when it comes to problems then, I'm a big fan of the first game, but I will admit the map system for both of the games, it's incredibly weak and I found them incredibly tough to read. Additionally, the weapon lock to enemies that may be at a different height to you, it's a little on the slow side. Sadly though then, the remainder of my complaints, they're mostly reserved for Temple. They trade new things here and I think it hurts the experience overall. The open world, for example, is just dull. You can't access specific missions, which makes chasing those challenges at a later date more of a chore. The first game has a level select option. Performance-wise then as well, both are targeting 30 frames per second and both are favorable, but the game, the first one at least, feels good. The second one, not so much. It's constantly fluctuating and it made the platforming sequences particularly annoying. There's also then tweaks to the movement mechanics that just don't feel right. They took to holding jump down for a longer distance, but I could rarely spot the difference, but it had me taking risks that I shouldn't have taken. Then the dodge roll in the second game is just horrible. She moves way too far, almost like she's sliding at the same time, and now she has even different animations which cover different amounts of distance, and that lack of consistency is frustrating, and I went barreling off a ledge more than a few times because of it. Additionally, the movement speed has always been fast, but in this follow-up, it feels a little too exaggerated and makes it even more difficult to control. Finally then, this goes for both games. The first features 2-player multiplayer, the second expanded this to 4-player. I did not get to try either, but it is going to be local only, and that is disappointing to not see the option for online play. I'm pretty confident that was a feature on both Steam and PlayStation, but it seems to be missing here for this Switch release. So overall, look for gameplay, I'm a big fan of the original, still am, but the follow-up, it shows its age, some design decisions, they don't work, the open world feels unnecessary, and the aggressive fluctuations in frame rate, they are particularly disappointing. Visually then, both have unique worlds, which I really do appreciate, and I'd actually argue the second game introduced more variety, which is always welcome, especially the boss encounters. They are absolutely massive at points. That said though, I don't think that entry has aged quite as well. The first game has an air of almost comic book cel shaded style to it, while the second is targeting something maybe a little more realistic, but for me it just looks weaker in this package. The shadow work just feels really strong in the original, and the second game can be a little dark at points as well. Both have strong animations however, and interesting enemy design, and they definitely nail the world of Tomb Raider and Lara Croft in general. Cutscenes then are mostly comprised of in-game engine sequences, but we do get the occasional comic book-esque moment as well to kind of round out that narrative. Audio finally, solid work. The voice acting for sure doesn't reach the heights of some of the AAA releases we see now, but it is fully voice acted, and there's some over-the-top performances that I really do appreciate. They also have a good grasp on using effects to build up the environments, and both are backed with suitably ominous soundtracks. So overall, I wish they were releasing these games individually alongside this collection, because I can wholeheartedly suggest the first game, but I'm struggling to get behind the second. It has too many issues. The design decisions honestly let down the game immediately in my opinion, but it's then accompanied with frame rate issues and a visual style that just hasn't aged all that well. We also need to address the fact here they both lack online support, which for some will be a major issue. And finally, the price point, $25 or your regional equivalent. I totally get these are the first appearance for Lara Croft on the system, but these are games that are constantly discounted to maybe a couple of bucks on other platforms. Today, again, big fan of the first game. It still doesn't disappoint, and that entry, it's getting a great 8 out of 10 from me. If it had given me online play, I would probably be pushing that to a 9, honestly, to give you a sense of how much I do enjoy it. Then, however, Temple, it's a weak pour. It feels like less care went into it, so that one, all the way down, it's getting an average 5 out of 10. So with that, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews, deals, news and lists daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.